Good afternoon, everyone. Today's is our last lab. It's lab 11. This lab will be due in 2 weeks from today. In the first part, we will start with mapping the area. So in this part, you are required to map an area of any place you choose, which can be a parking lot, a park, or a house backyard. If you cannot go outside, you can map the interior of your house, for example, your living room. So the purpose of this exercise is to learn how to map an area and how to use your steps or your base to find the total distance of the area you are mapping. In the coming slide, I will show you an example about how to map an area and how to measure the distance between different points. So this area is in the Grove. So if I want to map this area, I have to move through different points. So as we see in this picture, the map maybe like I'm going to do, it shows like a polygon. So if you are going to map a parking lot, for example, you are supposed to have 4 points. So you are supposed to map a square, something like square. But this is not a square, this is mostly like a polygon. So I have to move through 5 points. So we can like ignore point 4 because it's a straight line. So maybe like we can have only like 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, but it's up to you. So what I need to do is that I have to take steps from point 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and 5 to 1. So for me, for example, if it took like 10 steps to move from point 1 to point 2, I made, for example, 10 steps. So I have to change them to feet. For me, 1 step is equal to 2.5 feet. So if the distance between 1 to 2 is 10 steps, I have to change them to the feet, which are 25 feet. So you have to take steps from different points, record the steps, and change them to the feet. So what you need to do in this part, you have to make a table, and the table should include 3 things: the number of points you take to move from one place to another, and the distance in feet, and how many steps did it take to move from one point to another. So this is what you need to do for part 1. Now we are gonna move to part 2. So in this part, you will be given 2 tables, and each table has a data. And using the data from the table, you have to also draw polygons on a white paper or an engineering paper if you have it. So you will be given information about the bearing and the length. So the bearing is the direction from one point to another, and the length is the distance between one point to another. So for this one, let's see, this is point 1, this is point 2. The direction from point 1 to point 2, it's south 80° west. This is the quadrant system, the 90-degree system. If you are using the data from the azimuth system, it's 260°. Why 260°? Because 260° can be found in this part. So this is represent 270. This is 180. So 260 is right here. So to move from point 1 to point 2, the bearing is south 80° west, and the distance is 20.4 meters. Using this scale, this line is about 10.2 centimeters. So if I want to move from point 1, let's see, to point 5 or 6, the bearing is north-south or 180°. To move from this point to this point, the bearing is north-south or 180°, because this is 0, 90, 180, 270. For example, to move from this point to this point, I would say the direction may be south 45° west. So this is how to move from one point to another. So you have to use protractor. If you have, for example, if you have like numbers, like let's see, like between northwest or southwest, the protractor should be placed in this position. If you are numbers or measurement between northeast or southeast, you have to use the opposite side of the protractor. So you also need to measure the area, but to measure the area of a polygon, you don't need to do anything about the polygon that you are making, but you have to work with the data given in the table. So for this part, to measure the area, you need only two columns, the X column and Y column. And you have to use this calculation. For example, this is X1, this is Y1, and this is X2, and this is Y2. So you have to work only with the X and Y value to determine the area. And you have to make, or to determine the area for the west traverse and the east traverse. So you are given two tables, one table for the east traverse and one table for the west traverse. To measure the area, you need to work only with the data from the table. So you didn't need to do anything with the polygon you are drawing. So for the east traverse, there's a question about the volume of sediment that need to be removed, I think. So to measure the volume of the east traverse, so there are like multiple steps. So after drawing the polygon, so as I told you, this is only an example. So the polygon that you are going to draw will be different than this one, but the concept is the same. So after drawing the polygon, you have to make small polygons or small triangles inside the large polygon. So I would do that. I will draw like I will make a point, and I will collect the point in the center to the edges of the polygon. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 small triangulars or 5 small polygons. So I know this distance because it's given in the table. So this distance or the length is given in the table. But I need to determine the length of the sides. How do I know the length of the sides? I know I have the scale. So the scale is 1 centimeter is equal to 2 meters. What I need to do is that I have to measure the length of this line and the length of this line. And I have to do that with all lines. For example, if the length for this line is 4 centimeters, that's mean the distance between this point to this point, it's 8 meters because it's 4 centimeters and 5. It's 4 centimeters. 4 times 2 is equal to 8 meters. So this is how to find the length of these sides. I have the scales, so I have to measure this length with a ruler and then change it to the meter using this scale. So to measure the volume of the S-traverse, you have to do different calculation. So this is the main calculation, H times B divided by 3. So you have to measure the volume for each small polygon. For example, all of these calculation, I have to apply all of these calculation to these small figures. So the volume, it's H times B divided by 3. So the area, B, it's the area. So I have to use this calculation, and I have to define A, B, C, and S. To define S, I have to do this calculation. A plus B plus C divided by 2. And when I find S, I have to find the area, or B, using this calculation. I have A, so A are the edges, like in this small polygon, A is 24. In this one, A is 10.5 meter. In this one, A is 7.2 meter. So A is already given in the table. So I have to define B and C. And for this part, for this polygon, I have to define B and C. So this calculations should be applied on each small figures. So you have to do this calculation for 5 small polygons and then added them together to determine the volume of the total or of the large polygon. So H is already given in the lab worksheet, which is 5 meters. So I have H. What I need to do is to define B, which is the area. So to define B, you have to define S first. So you have A, you have to determine C and B. How to determine C and B? The length of B is 8.4 centimeter. The length of C is 5.8 centimeter. So you can use the ruler to measure the length of this line or this line. And then using this scale, you have to change it to the meter. So in this slide, I found B and C using this scale. B is 16.8 meter, C it's 11.6 meter. So now I have all the numbers, so I have to do all these calculations to determine the volume of the small polygon. A represent the edge, B and C represent the sides or the legs. So when I determine the volume of this small polygon using this calculation, I have to move to another polygon. I have to determine C and B for each one. And after that, after doing this calculation for each small polygon, you have to add the total together to find the volume of the large polygon. So this is the last slide for this lecture. So please see the lecture as soon as possible and read the lab worksheet as soon as possible. So if you have any question, you have time to ask us. So please don't wait until 1 or 2 days before the due date of the lab. So please read the lecture, and if you have any question, let us know. So start with part 1 first. I will recommend that in this week you should work on lab 1. Part 1, which is easy. I think it can take like less than a day to finish it. And after finishing part 1, start with part 2, because part 2 needs more time from you. So in part 2, you have to measure the area of the 2 polygons, the east traverse and the west traverse, and you have to draw 2 polygons for the east traverse and west traverse, and you need the data from the tables. And after making the polygons, the 2 polygons, you need to determine the volume for only the eastern traverse, for only 1 polygon. So you have to determine the area using the tables, and then you have to determine the volume for the east traverse, and also make the 2 polygons using the data from the table. So thank you guys. I hope you the best in the rest of your semester. Thanks.